Now that I had the wooden frames done on my shop doors, I thought the next step would be to build the metal frames that will go inside the wooden frames. Frames on frames. After picking up some metal in town, I carefully carried it into the shop. Really didn't want to ding up my dad's Land Cruiser, which was just back from having body work done. I need to cut some 45-degree angles, and I thought it would take a second to describe my process of measuring and cutting the angles. It's probably mostly common sense stuff, but there's still a couple tricks I learned, and it's actually something I still struggle with from time to time to get accurate cuts. Both the top and bottom need to have 45-degree angles cut into them, and since there's two cuts like this, I always cut one end and then measure before cutting the second cut. If you measure first and then make both cuts, it's just one more chance for you to be slightly off. I made a small mark on the outside of 88 inches, and then I use my square to draw a straight line the rest of the way across the metal. I've been known to cut the wrong way from time to time, so I draw a dummy line on there to hopefully prevent this. Hopefully prevent it. No guarantees. So what I do is position myself so I'm right over the top of the line to where the line almost appears to be a dot. It's pretty easy if you move side to side to find that center point. And this is why it's really important for me to use the square when I draw the line. I move the metal until the line, which looks like a dot, is directly underneath the blade. And then I always pay close attention as it starts cutting, because if it's off a little bit, you can usually bump it whichever way it needs to go and get it cutting right on the line. Again, I know this is basic bandsaw 101 stuff. Everybody probably knows, but I still have trouble making miter cuts like this accurately. And these are just some of the things I think about while I'm doing it to hopefully make some good cuts. Before I welded the frames together, I need to drill the holes that I'll screw through into the wood. After finding the right size hole for the screw, I found the matching bit. If you're paying close attention, you'll see that I'm drilling the wrong side of the metal. Rookie mistake. I should be drilling the side with the 90-degree cut, not this side with the 45-degree. So I had to re-drill these later. I set up a jig so the drill would be centered for all the rest of the holes. I wouldn't have to mark every one. I also used a larger bit, the size of the screw head, to countersink the hole, letting the screw sit flush on this wrong side of the metal. Stupid, Justin. Come on. I squared up the corners and then welded them together. And lastly came in and ground them smooth. It was raining outside, and I really didn't want to put these in the back of my pickup to haul into my barn because they'd get wet and start rusting. So I commandeered my mom's Suburban. But I was a good son and put down a dirty tarp first, doing my best to keep the oil off her clean Suburban floor. You're welcome, Mom. You owe me. Drake was also sure to wipe his feet off before getting in. Back at the barn, I got to work painting while Drake watched. He didn't offer to help even once. Kinda rude. I just rattle canned these. Gave him a couple coats. The next day, after they dried, I got to work installing them on the doors. I did what I almost always have a bad habit of doing, and tried to make them too accurate, and they were too tight of a fit. I had to fight every single one. But I got them all in place. I I really need to learn to give myself like a 16th of an inch for slop. I'd be so much better off if I did, but I just can't quite seem to do it for some reason. I always try to make everything perfect, and I just end up fighting it. Now that I had the metal frames in place and screwed down, it was time to get the tin roofing down from the rafters where it was stacked. I had to grab my ladder extension so I can get up high enough. I only needed 6 pieces, but I grabbed about 10 so I could pick out which ones I wanted to use. A couple of them were marked with the cool Japanese logo on the back. I'm a little bit of a Japanophile. I think they have some of the coolest architecture and art in the world over there. Thought it'd be cool to have the logo showing on the inside of the doors. I measured and cut the tin down to size. I don't know how roofing is usually cut. I ended up just using the angle grinder. I have some tin snips, but I couldn't figure out how to use them and not dent the curves in the roofing. Probably a trick I don't know. The angle grinder worked fine, but it just left some gnarly edges. My hands started bleeding just looking at the cuts. I was really happy I had the old tin and didn't have to buy new stuff. I liked the little bit of rust that was on them. I drilled through both the tin and the frame and then used self-tapping roofing screws to fasten the tin down. I learned a little bit late in the game that the screws caused the tin roofing to cave in a little bit, which bothered me. It's kind of hard to see, but when you tighten the screws down, it pulls the tin inside of the frame. I realized that the frames needed a couple ribs in the middle, kind of like the supports where my handles are going to go on the inside of the door. So I cut some 1/4 inch strips and welded them in place. It was a quick fix, and I was glad I did it. The next day I finished getting the rest of the tin up, and then using a cut-off wheel, cut flush the screws in the backside. But we had a bit of a storm coming in, so Drake and I decided to call it a day there.